Hi, my name is Emily West, and today I'm going to be discussing the death penalty. What comes to mind for many when thinking about the death penalty is the worst of the worst. It can be pedophiles, mass murderers, rapists, you name it, horrible, horrible crimes, and the justice that is perceived as served when somebody is committed and sentenced to death. However, I believe that the death penalty should be abolished, and the first reason why I feel like it should be abolished is because it does not help the families, and there's a big misconception that sentencing somebody to death is going to help bring justice, peace, and closure to the families. However, according to CNN on 9/28/12, the death penalty cases have a 25-year average to reach a solution. That means that the families are forced to go to trials, go to sentencing hearings, as well as the extended wait listing for court dates and appearances due to overrun prisons and just the judicial system flaws overall, which means that the families are forced to endure up to 25 years of the same pain and sadness and lack of healing that comes from having to relive such traumatic events every time they have to go to court. The second reason why I believe that the death penalty should be abolished is because there are so many wrongful convictions that lead to innocent individuals receiving the death penalty. And I think overall in our judicial system, we have a lot of problems with, people being in prison and receiving sentences that they do not deserve, especially for those who did not commit the crime they were accused of. And according to CNN on 7/26/15, there are 330 exonerations based on DNA alone. 20 of those individuals served time even with DNA technology in place. This means that there were people who were on death row who did not commit the crimes they were accused of. And that just goes to show how flawed the system is, and that we need to make some serious changes, especially in regards to the death penalty, because that's only including people that we know of. That doesn't include the cases where individuals were sentenced and actually put to death wrongfully. I feel as though an action that we can do is realize that the death penalty is not a deterrent, so we need to work on making legislations and passing laws to which the death penalty is not on the table. According to the New York Times, 2/26/22, according to Justice Breyer, little reason to think that the death penalty deters crime, and there are delays for sentencing as well as executions for these crimes that violates our Eighth Amendment right. And I feel like that just kind of tops everything off, because if somebody is innocent, or even the people that aren't innocent, there's such long times from when they are sentenced and then from the sentencing to the actual execution, which is not very humane, you could say. And also ABC 7 News on 7/14/2016 said this measure abolishes the death penalty in California, and they made the maximum penalty for murder life without the possibility of parole, which I feel is kind of tying into the second action, which is basically saying that I believe that the death penalty, the eye for an eye, I guess you could say, isn't very humane, and that way of thinking isn't necessarily going to fix the problems that we are seeing in society. It does not deter crime or any of that. People are still committing crimes. People are still murdering one another, even with the death penalty being on the table. There's also a ton of discrimination, and that's what I think we need to also call to action, not just within the judicial system, but law enforcement. The whole system itself has a lot of flaws and corruption and discriminations. According to the OC Register on 10/14/16, many studies show that the death penalty is most likely to be seen in African American or Latinos, and they are way more likely to get the death penalty than white people. And this is factual, proven statistics, and I just think that shows that, it's highly unfair, especially if we're looking at the same crimes committed by a white person and a Latino or an African American or whatever ethnicity that they are. Seeing the studies showing that people of color and minorities are way more likely to get the death penalty than a white person who commits the same crime is just atrocious, and it really shows some of the bigger flaws and cracks with discrimination and biases and prejudices within our system. And that's something that needs to be taken seriously. It needs to be addressed, especially when we're putting people's lives on the table or deciding whether or not we want to kill somebody. And there are moral, legal, and psychological attachments with that that can affect that. So I believe that our possible future, if we do not make these calls to action, especially according to CBS News on 2/22/21, is that we know that our criminal justice system isn't fair. The death penalty is inequitable, ineffective, and inhumane, and that just ties everything all together. I don't feel as though, with the problems that I brought up, that the death penalty is something that is going to be positive for anyone. I believe that if we make these necessary changes, we can work on the judicial system as a whole and creating and implementing fair sentencing and legal practices. Overall, I feel like the judicial system needs a reform, especially in regards to the death penalty, and I believe that we can make these changes if people go out there and they vote for people that do not automatically say an eye for an eye, and we can really make positive changes for not only the victims and their families that are left behind, but for the people that are being unfairly persecuted and being put with unfair judicial penalties. So thank you.